Welcome, everyone, to the Cosmic Cafe Astrology Bites. So, 9 of us, some up-and-coming astrologers who have a lot of insights to share, coming together on this occasion. It's right after the full moon, and the month of August is packed with interesting transits. So some of us are going to explore the transits of the season, the coming month, and the rest of the year, really, even into early 2024 as we speak about eclipses. And that's, the beauty of astrology is to understand the intentions of these transits, to understand the astro-cosmic weather. So it's a great opportunity for everyone to share their perspective, to get to know our new voices, and to celebrate astrology as we have some astrology bites and cosmic infusions. As we say, both coffee and tea are accepted. So we begin today with Debe de Stefano, who will speak about the lunations of the month. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Debe, the mic and the stage is yours. You can share your screen.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. And thank you, Maurice, for this opportunity. I have a short period to speak about this. So we're going to talk about the lunation cycles for August and their impact on our natal charts. And this is one of my favorite things to do, talk about the moon, and particularly this particular full moon and new moon, because I am a Leo sun and I have an Aquarius moon. What
All
are the
right.
odds? So today we're going to be talking about, first we're going to talk about the full moon. But before we do that, I just want to give you just a little compilation of what the moon phases in the lunation cycles, especially for the full moon and new moon. So the two most influential celestial bodies in our natal chart are the sun and the moon, right? And your sun is your ego. It's your purpose in life. It is your self-esteem. It's what's important to you and what makes you shine, right? And so since the moon reflects the light of the sun, your moon is your emotional expression reflecting your sun's mission in your life journey. So today we're going to be looking at our most recent full moon and our next new moon. Okay, just a little bit about the full moon, okay, in case for those who aren't aware or do not know, and I apologize if you do know this, but so the full moon begins at the opposition with the sun approximately 14 days after the new moon, the last new moon we had in Cancer. So this is when we discover illuminating clarity, that aha moment in our intuitive visions, a fulfillment through revelations, epiphanies, and our focus on the depths of our relationships. Always seeking balance, right? Okay, so here we go. This is our full moon that started yesterday. It's going to be there for the next maybe probably 2.5 days at this point. We started yesterday. Okay, so here we have our sun up here in Leo and our moon in Aquarius. And the full moon in Aquarius focuses on the humanitarian and the collective and our need for independence and the freedom for us to express ourselves in our own unique way. The sun in Leo represents the spirit of the lion and the heart of gold, right? And the moon in Aquarius represents our emotional connection with humanity, an emotional connection to groups of people of like mind, and yet our need to be uniquely understood. Okay, so if you have the Leo and Aquarius around this, this is going to be affecting your chart in that way with the Leo and Aquarius. Not only that, we have to take into consideration the squares to that. So that would be Taurus and and Scorpio. And here we have, look at this. We have Jupiter and Taurus. Okay. Jupiter and Taurus. Oh my goodness. And it's the apex of this T square. Okay. So with that in mind, it's like, we can very well be overspending, overindulging. Taurus is about the sensual. It's about what's sensual, and Jupiter's about expansion. So here we're talking about us overindulging, perhaps, in maybe what we're eating, what we're drinking, what we're spending. Okay. You don't have to be the hero, spending all your money on, the dinner for everybody, that you get your annual get together, right? You don't have to do that. If you have fixed planets within a reasonable orb, aspecting the sun and the moon, you will be experiencing either a fixed T square or a grand cross. Okay, fixed is the most challenging of them all, but you know what, this is kind of like, it pushes us to work towards these issues. It depends on where your house is. I'm not sure where you are in the world, but look at it where it is in your houses and see what areas of life are being affected by that, or influenced by that. So the cardinal and mutable signs will have a minimal impact, but if you have fixed signs, check it out, right? The one thing in this chart that could help you refrain from overindulging is this. The Saturn down here in Pisces, and it's making a partile opposition to Mercury and Virgo. Now we know, and I could say this too because I have Mercury and Virgo. Mercury and Virgo is kind of the control freak. It's the person who is, getting down to the all the details, But Saturn in Pisces, it could be your moral compass, okay, and bring on this mature wisdom. It crosses this bridge with Mercury, which could be a bit of a control freak, the perfectionist, and Saturn is our inner authority. It's telling us to chill out, just chill out, okay. And this also applies to the partile trine between the Mars and the Jupiter, Mars and Jupiter. Okay, so again, we have Mars going, we got to take care of this, and Jupiter's like, yeah, okay, but you know what? It's also telling you to chill out because Taurus likes to chill out a bit. So it's like this opportunity to just take it easy, just take it easy. And if you have a Capricorn angle or any planet or planets in Capricorn around uh, that degree, you could start getting in charge with the, practical nitty gritties in your life, like being taken charge again. Okay, so that's kind of all I have to say pretty much about this chart. There's a lot more to say, but I want to move on also. Just keep in mind that we have this Jupiter. It's kind of like, telling us to have a bunch of fun and everything. So what are we going to do? We're going to have this new moon that comes up next on August 16th. So that's when the moon begins in exact conjunction with the sun, and it stays in there for about 3.5 days. And a lot of people do celebrate these new moon and full moon phases. The new moon, particularly, where many people set new intentions during the new moon phase. This is fresh starts. So people born during the new moon have the power of both luminaries teaming up together. And that's what we have here when we talk about in a couple of weeks when we have the new moon, where we have them in Leo right here, right? So we have them teaming up together, our little heroes, the sun and moon together in Leo. And this is where the sun and moon join forces, okay, in the same sign. And so there's a lot of that Leo warmth, that creativity, the, romance. And this time of year it is, we gather together, we have our barbecues, we get our families together, it's just a fun time this time of year. So if you have planets in fire or air within a reasonable orb, be prepared for summer socials and romantic gatherings. And if you have a mid-sign planets in Taurus or Scorpio or Aquarius, especially particularly Taurus and Scorpio, this could be financial stuff that you're going to have to be working out with these squares. Okay, so here, this is an interesting thing right here. We had this full moon, we had Jupiter giving us all this abundance of wonderful sensual overload. And here we have Uranus making a partile square to our little hero duo over here. And what is this telling you to do? Okay, so the Uranus in Taurus is telling you, okay, you gotta change things up. You know, you gotta, maybe I overate, maybe I overspent, maybe I just did too much of everything. So it's telling you, okay, it's time to change. Okay. And what are we going to change? Okay, first of all, and I just want to bring this up to this Venus retrograde also in the sun sign. Okay, and it's moving away from the sun and moon, but here's an opportunity here to really kind of reimagine, romantic, find that romance that you had in your relationships. Maybe it's the relationship with, I'm going to put ... Could be what you're eating, whatever relationship you're in with your food, with yourself, with your partner. This is a time to go back and say, I need to go back to being a little more practical here. Okay. And very interesting too, that the outer planets are all sextiling each other. And of course, then this makes the Uranus and the Pluto. These are the gods of change, as Liz Green or Howard Susportis would bring up. And so, these outer planets are all working together, but I want to point out one other thing. Okay, two things. The Mars is in this amazing Earth trine here. Okay, so the Mars is making this grand Earth trine. Okay, time to start to make changes. Time to begin to start, getting more practical. Okay, and then we have this yod. And I don't usually look at yods too much, but this includes the sun and the moon as the finger of God for this yod. And what's best about this is the sextile between the Neptune and the Pluto, where we could, there's some spiritual stuff going on here that is helping us to be more in charge of what we're supposed to be doing. And when I see earth and water together, I always think of us planting something in the soil and nourishing it with the water. Something's going to grow here, and it's going to be good, particularly if we pay attention to this sun, moon in Leo.
Thank you, Debbie.
Yes, thank you so very much. And if you guys want any more information, here's my information here, and it'll be in the recording. So thank you so very much for allowing me to speak.
So Debbie, you are based in North Carolina?
Yes, I'm in North Carolina, yes.
And you practice internationally, do readings?
I do readings and I teach. And I teach about the moon, and I teach beginner's astrology, yes, and intermediate.
All right. Thank you so much. And we're looking forward to festive indulgences and creative projects.
Yes, thank you so much. Let me stop share so the next colleague could get on there. So
yes, Jennifer, thank you. You're going to share your view on Venus retrograde in Leo.
Yes. Okay, how does that look?
It looks great.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Day Anderson, and AquariusRising.com is my website where you can learn more about what I offer for astrology readings, coaching, and retreats. Today, I am sharing about Venus retrograde and Leo and the Venus star point that's happening this month, what that means for us, how we can best use this cosmic weather for what we are creating in our lives. We still have another month of Venus retrograde with some really unique activations. So I'm going to be speaking about the meanings and these important dates that we can be aware of. A little bit about me. I've been studying evolutionary astrology, predominantly with Jeff Green, Kim Marie, Maurice Fernandez for over 25 years. I have a wellness and coaching practice I've had for over 15 years. And I am currently in Costa Rica. So before I go surfing, I check the tides so I can get the best surf session in. And this is how we can use astrology to have more awareness, to navigate more powerfully, and be conscious of the big picture. So maybe you have noticed in the evening sky, we've been able to see Venus these past few months and the planet Mars in the western horizon at sunset. It's been a beautiful spectacle of the celestial season that we are currently in. So Venus will soon disappear as she enters the sunbeams for an exact conjunction with the sun August 13th. And this is what is a Venus star point. So she's going to disappear for a while, and then around August 20th, she'll show back up right before sunrise as a morning star. If you've never checked out the orbit, it is pretty magnificent. It makes this sacred geometry of this 5-pointed star. You can go to my Instagram handle, Jennifer Day Anderson, and I have some videos of this orbit between Sun, Venus, and the Earth. There's an excellent book, Venus Star Rising by Ariel Gutman, that goes much more into this, but we're going to talk more about that. But let's first just break down the archetypes and then synthesize all of it together. So yes, we are in Leo season. So in the Northern Hemisphere, it's summertime. This is beach parties and summer vacation for many people. Leo is ruled by the sun. It is the symbol of the royal lion. Leo is a fire element. It is fixed, yang, energy moving out. Creativity, it is where we are creatively actualizing ourselves in our lives. It is associated with the theater arts, sports, matters of the heart, romance, to name a few. Then we look at the planet Venus. Venus is associated with our feelings, our relationships, what we value, where we're learning equality. It's about love, sensuality, beauty, giving, and receiving. Venus is associated with the Greek goddess of Aphrodite. She was a goddess of sexuality, love, and beauty. She was primarily known for love and fertility. Her story encapsulates the archetypes of the lover, the muse, the courtesan, the mistress, the beautiful maiden. She was portrayed in myths as friendly, kind, generous, vengeful, and powerful. In our generation, we are living through a revolution of men and women's roles as the paradigm shift continues to happen in this dawning of a new era we are all living through. From an evolutionary point of view, we are rewriting the roles that we have played for the last 2,000 years. So this Venus transit is another opportunity to dive into that. The roles that women have played have continued to evolve as the old patriarchy, dominated by men's rules, continues to crumble. When any of the planets go retrograde, it causes disruptions. We cannot go about life the same way. It is commonly a reflective period where we feel like we have to make changes or we are forced to make changes. Venus retrograde is another opportunity on our journey for an evolutionary leap. So it's good to remember that evolution is not this linear line forward, and we often regress or we have to take 2 steps back before we can take a big step forward. So a good way to think about this Venus retrograde, we're pulling our bow and arrow back, we're gathering momentum to hopefully shoot the bow and arrow forward to our bullseye and have more evolutionary development. With this Venus retrograde, there is the potential to reclaim, reactivate, rethink, reconsider, refocus on what we value and how we value ourselves. This is directly linked to our power. So the common themes, vibes of Venus retrograde and Leo, people from our past, whether romantic, business, social relationships, will reemerge. Possibly in our existing relationships, things that we thought were already worked out will come back up for renegotiation. Spending, finances might need a revamp. There can be fortune reversals. Values unexpectedly can change. Fluctuations in currencies, money, investments are very common during this period. If relationships are fragile, there can be breakdowns and breakups. This is a great time to do shadow work, therapy, do that deep emotional work for clarity and healing. Potentially, you could reignite love in your relationship. This can be a time that you decide that you are going to finally make money doing what you love. This particular Venus in retrograde is going to square Uranus at 23 degrees of Taurus a couple times. So if you have any planets in the fixed signs, Leo, Aquarius, Scorpio, Taurus, especially around that 23 degrees, you're going to definitely be feeling this. If you don't know what I'm talking about, come and get a reading. So there could also be breakthroughs in technology, anything web-based because of that Uranus square. If you meet a new person under Venus retrograde, it could wake something up in you, be an exciting relationship, especially with the Uranus square. General rule of thumb, don't make any major commitments until after Venus goes direct. This is a great time for self-care, self-love, reclaiming part of ourselves, reawakening a dormant talent. There can be a demand for more equality, more honesty, where we're not willing to compromise, or a realization where we have compromised and we're not willing to do that anymore. Some of the themes that we have seen this past week in the mainstream media that coincide with Venus retrograde. Barbie, the movie, is #1 in the world right now. So it's a controversial whether or not this icon figure is really empowering for women. But I want to point out the script is being flipped here. And the movie is changing the narrative. Its underlying story is this woman who thinks she's in control, finds out she's a doll living in a man's world, and her fight to overcome it. We also saw the passing of Sinead O'Connor this past week. We're reminded of a woman in our past who is an icon, a powerful activist woman, revolutionary in her nature, pushing the boundaries to inspire women's freedom and emancipation. She was direct and exposed the abuse and inequalities. We also see Hollywood's on strike, all these creatives. Also, that coincides with Saturn in Pisces retrograde. So just a couple of the ways that we're seeing this Venus retrograde in Leo. Definitely an opportunity to rewrite the script from victim to co-creator and claim our power. So let's go back to that Venus star point. Venus goes retrograde every 18 months. So the last time and every time the Sun and Venus join up, have their sacred meeting, that's a Venus star point in retrograde and her direct motion. So the last time Venus was retrograde was January of 2022. You want to think back on that. That was in Capricorn, different energy, but still you want to think back what was going on around January of 2022. And then the last time Venus was retrograde in Leo was 8 years ago, August 15, 2015. What was going on for you 8 years ago? That was the last time. And this is a beautiful way that we connect the dots and look at the cycles of what's going on. Where are you now? Who were you then? What's happening now? Does anything coincide? And you can start to see the synchronicities. I already mentioned the book, Venus Star Rising. So if you, once again, if you have any of the fixed signs at that 23 degrees especially, Deb already had mentioned some of those dates, but we have the exact Venus star point August 13th. On August 15th, we have Sun, Venus, Moon conjoint. It's beautiful for romance, definitely fertility. August 16th, we have that new moon in Leo. And then August 31st, we have the second full moon, which is the blue moon. And then September 4th, Venus is going to go direct as she's squaring Jupiter. So again, maybe we're balancing the budget again, but it's definitely an opportunity for big love and yeah, just being in nature and enjoying these summer months.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Look forward to these activations.
Yes, me too. Thanks for sharing, or thank you for having me, and I will stop sharing.
And from one retrograde to another, later this month, Mercury turns retrograde in Virgo. And Katy White, tell us how we survive that. Are you there, Katy? You're muted.
Yes, Mercury's playing a joke on me, obviously. Always happens because thoughts affect reality, and I'm already there in the retrograde. Anyway, thank you guys. Let's talk Mercury in retrograde. We have one coming up in August, and I want you guys to be fully prepared. So first off, why? What's in it for me and you, this talk? Mercury is all over my birth chart. I can't hide from a retrograde. I tested it out. I've had all the cliches, broken leases, airport delays, phone drama, but I've also figured out how to make it work. And I want to share those insider secrets with you. 2, there is so much overhyping in pop astrology and social media about Mercury retrograde. That is why I chose it. I want to bring some clarity to the topic so you don't feel gullible or have FOMO about whether or not, something might happen. 3rd, on a practical level, if you want to study astrology, you've got 3 to 4 3-week periods every year. And so that's a lot of data. It can really optimize learning astrology quickly if you start to use these periods for self-reflection. So just dropping that in there. Your Mercury retrograde guide. Hello, I'm Katy. This is the site where to find me, book a session, read testimonials, etc. My full bio is on here, but in short, I am a woo-woo geek. I have a master's degree in ancient Latin, but academia ripped me to shreds for thinking astrology had merit like 20 years ago. So I went on a quest for the truth, and along the way developed my clairvoyance, became a hypnotherapist, professional astrologer, Kundalini yoga teacher, and now an integrative health coach, because we have to ground this cosmic stuff in the physical body. So I'll talk a little bit about wellness and how that relates to these cycles too. The numbers, so these are the actual dates of the retrogrades this year. We have 4 because we've got these 2 on the edge, usually 3. You can see they're all in earth signs. And so we kind of get this elemental patterning with the retrogrades. And so that, we can look at them in isolation, but then we can look at the element as a whole and get like a big subplot for the year or a big chunk of time. So August 23rd, there it is. That's when it starts. If you want one takeaway, put that in your calendar. Okay. So it's really important to revisit the basics. Even if you're advanced, let's break it down. What do we need to know about Mercury? It's the fastest planet, and it's basically on the sun's leash. It's never more than 28 degrees away from the sun. And so when it gets far out there, it's yanked back into a retrograde. The sun doesn't let it get too far out of range. So during the retrogrades, everything under Mercury's governance is affected and probably offended. The signs of Gemini and Virgo, those houses and planets in your chart, all the thinking faculties, and anyone in work related to everything you see here. And even though it's apparent motion, we're talking about things appearing to move backward in the sky. Appearances do affect reality, and thoughts affect what we manifest. So I want to put some focus on the shadow periods. You may or may not have heard of the Mercury retrograde shadow. So the actual retrograde will start when Mercury goes to 21 degrees of Virgo. But at 8 degrees of Virgo, this is when the shadow period starts. And this is the time when you're going to get the clues about what is going on, what will go on during the retrograde. So tomorrow, August 3rd, until the retrograde actually starts, is when you should really start to pay attention. The actual retrograde goes August 23rd to September 15th, and you can see that we go back to that initial shadow zone point, and then we get the station. Mercury appears to stop in the sky, it turns around, and then again we have a post-shadow period here, September 30th to September 15th to September 30th. So we get back to this 2151 Virgo point, and that's when we really want to focus on resolutions happening. Otherwise, this unresolved stuff will show up in the next Mercury retrograde. These are the cliches that you see on Instagram. And yes, it's sort of helpful, but it doesn't really explain why, or, you know, why you need to do this stuff. We know everything is in earth signs this year with the retrogrades. So you might want to apply this stuff to the physical body, food, values, finances, routine, legacy. You know, what are you building in life? Will stuff break down? Well, maybe if it was already on the way out and not maintained. It will be during that shadow period, the pre-shadow period, when you'll get a sense of, you know, listen to your intuition then, because you'll really get a hint of what you should be paying more attention to. So this is like this is my biggest share about Mercury retrograde. Forget the details for a moment and think of it as a road trip. You're driving, you realize you left your phone somewhere along the way, and you gotta stop, turn around, drop everything, focus on finding your phone. Meanwhile, you're no longer part of calls and emails. You can't respond because you don't have a phone. You're in this kind of communication time warp. And remember too that Mercury is on the sun's leash in a way. Mercury speeds ahead, but has to come back and relay and negotiate the information with the boss before it can go out again. And so allow Mercury retrograde to be an integration period. Don't fight it. Go back and get your phone. Don't buy a new one. Pretend the cloud doesn't exist. Don't jump too far ahead. And also, I include hitchhikers because Mercury is often influenced by other planets and luminaries. And I'll get into that in a moment. Then, you know, the retrograde period is going to end when you get your phone back. You have this chaos moment of having to quickly integrate and respond to all these messages. And you'll note the beginning and end of the retrograde are usually the most potent kind of cliche moments. And then you slowly get back to the original road trip, to the place you first turned around, and you may change the larger plan now that the retrograde is over. That's kind of the basic story you'll find each time. I think I made a video of the period, but I don't think we need to see it. It's just helpful sometimes to have a chart because you can sort of see the planets involved. So we'll have Mercury here at the next one going through Virgo. There'll be interaction with Mars. Just, you know, the sun will eventually enter into Virgo. We have Pluto here in an earth sign, Uranus in an earth sign, Jupiter in an earth sign. So we'll kind of have a grand trine at various points. And so it's not Mercury acting alone. We have to look at these other pieces. And okay, don't hate. I like to anthropomorphize the planets into figures. I distorted the pictures, so it's not a copyright issue. Fun little tip there. So let's, for example, take Pluto in Capricorn. What's the larger story of the outer planets and earth signs? We've got death, rebirth, population management, whatever you want to call it, blowing up the power structures that we've got, the 9 to 5, the banking system, plutocracies taking control of everything, CEOs stepping down. There's heavy transformation happening in Cap. Uranus and Taurus, we've got unpredictable weather, disruption, new tech, infiltrating the routine, agriculture, currency, what is valued. You know, 81-year-old Martha Stewart on the cover of Sports Illustrated the day after the last Mercury retrograde station. That's a change in traditional values. So when we get Mercury retrogrades in earth signs, it's going to be responding to these larger changes that we're seeing with the outer planets. And I'm using the trines we get from the earth sign outer planets as an example here. But if you get into the nitty gritty, you can really get Mercury, the Mercury story of going back, and kind of assessing, do we really want to take this here as a collective? So many earth-based things happening this year and projected to happen in the future. And so just looking at wellness, how well are we as a collective and individually? I think the point of autonomy is important, especially now with the North Node in Aries. So how self-reliant are we, or dependent on others? The writer's strike, and high likely potential for a UPS or postal strike later in the year, hence Santa, are really important. We just submit to AI. Can you survive without Amazon or Whole Foods? Mars entering Virgo was an important time for the strike. So now Mercury going retrograde in that Virgo territory, that's likely to get reawakened. In the last retrograde in May, Elon Musk, Jeffrey Hinton, came out saying, hey, despite investing so much time and money into AI, like, we need to be careful because they're creating things we're not going to know what's true anymore in the world. So these are things that we can't just let slide in the background. And I really think that in 2029, which is the next time that we'll get Mercury going through Earth signs, we will have Saturn and Chiron in Taurus instead of expansive Jupiter, Uranus, and the North Node. And so this, I think, will be the time of reckoning. Are there consequences to eating lab meat? Well, we're probably not going to know for 7 years. So this, again, the Mercury retrograde saga can exist over longer stretches of time. Okay.
Beautiful.
I don't want. Okay. Yeah, we can close it there.
No, I mean, I think you need to prepare a 1 hour thing on this.
It was 1 hour, and I tried to cut it down to 10 minutes. So I was like nearly there.
It's absolutely great, and so much information. I think you should, and all of us here, we don't want to spend the whole day on Zoom, so we're just offering bits and pieces, and just to stimulate our attention and learn more about this and continue our own research. But I do feel like you could make a video here and maybe share it with the audience later on.
I totally, yeah, just take a screenshot of this, because despite all the chaos going on in the world, these are things that you can control in terms of wellness. So I would use the next Mercury retrograde to pick one of these to focus on and just try to incorporate it more. And yeah, email me at thegenuinemystic@gmail.com, and I have a special offer. If you get in touch in the next week, I'll send you a discount code for a session. And the slides. Thank you.
Thank you. Beautiful and practical. Stella takes us to the nodal axis, a new shift in Aries and Libra.
Hi, everybody. I'm Stella Humphries. I'm also based in North Carolina, and I'm a coach and an astrologer, and I lead retreats in my place in our retreat center in the mountains of North Carolina. And today I'm going to talk about the nodal shift that's occurring, that has occurred on July 17th and is going to be with us for 18 months. And it's the lunar nodes moving from Aries to Libra. Aries and Libra. So a few thoughts first about what a node is. A node in astrology is not a planet, but it's a point in the sky where the moon's orbit around the Earth intersects with the Earth's orbit around the sun. So because the orbit is not parallel to the Earth's to the sun's orbit, to the Earth's orbit around the sun, you get the nodes are distinguished by the ones that are going ascending are called the North Node, and the ones that are descending are called the South Node. And what that means in astrology, these are very important signatories in the chart. The South Node is seen to be what we bring into this birth and into this life from past lives. So evolutionary astrology focuses on the current birth as being part of a series of births that we've been through before and ones that we're going forward in. So in the South Node is an important part of the of evolutionary astrology, because we look at it to, don't know why it does that all by itself, I'm sorry. The South Node denotes what we come in with, both the strengths and the capacities that we've mastered, but also that which we've overused, and it includes unresolved karma. It involves outdated patterns that we are going to need to move beyond, and circumstances in our life and relationships in our life are going to be showing us where we need to start to change. And the North Node is the polar opposite energies, and this is general with any signs that the axis is in. The North Node shows us what are the energies that we are moving towards, which are like antidotes to the energies that we're needing to release from the South Node. So there we go. So this is the chart for today, and we can see that the North Node is in Aries and the South Node is in Libra. So we're going to start looking at the South Node in Libra, and the Libra is an archetype, which is going to be, we're going to be influenced by, during this nodal phase of 18 months. So it's a year and a half. And the Libra archetype is ruled by Venus, and we've already heard about the importance of Venus. So wherever that axis is in your personal chart, also have a look at what Venus is doing in your chart. And Mars is rules Aries, so have a look at what Mars is doing in your chart. So this is what the axis will look like in 2025, January 2025, where we see how the nodes have moved from Aries and is going into Pisces, and the South Node will be moving into Virgo. Having trouble with this. Okay, so going back to the Libra archetype. So this is important because we all have Libra archetypes. We have all have Libra energy, and we all have Aries energy in our chart. And that will be activated now in particular. And again, we're going to be looking at some of the limitations of Libra. But first of all, let's look at what the powerful positives are about Libra. So Libra is an air sign, it's cardinal, it's ruled by Venus. And its evolutionary need is to find balance, is to find, to complete itself. And it does that through relationships. So it's the one sign that's particularly focuses on relationship, on any relationship with self, intimate relationships, colleagues, family, and so on. So Libra looks to others. It's focused on others to see what is missing in itself, to try and fill that void and fill that gap. So in that process, it develops some very powerful, sorry, I don't know why my computer's doing that. Some very powerful skills of being a good listener, of being a good counselor, of negotiating. It's very relational, and in its exalted form, it finds harmony, it finds beauty, it finds balance. It's very tuned into where there's inequity and where there's need to be a harmony developed. So those are the strengths of Libra. And now we look at, because we're looking at the South Node, we're going to look at some of the shadowy side of Libra. So when we're other focused, then from childhood, we start developing compliance as to what other people tell us, what school tells us, what families tells us, what our upbringing tells us. We listen to what the other person wants. And we sort of look to them for guidance. We look to them for how to behave. And Libra also is an air sign, so there's a lot of thinking and not a lot of acting. And what happens when one is other oriented that much or too much, then we start to, and why when it's really important to keep the relationship, we can start to compromise. We can start to be inauthentic. So we can be smiling on our face, but actually we're crying inside. And the other important thing is that Libra has a propensity to lose its own sense of what it wants and what it values. So where other people are saying yes, it might have a no, but it doesn't necessarily know that. And so the Libra dissipates energy, loses its way. And this last image here is about where am I going and what am I doing and what do I really want? And so the opposite of that, the polar energies of that is the Aries archetype, and that's fire. It's a cardinal sign. It's ruled by Mars, and Mars, as we know, is the planet of war. So it's a very passionate sign. It's a very combative sign. It can, but in essence, to me, Aries like brings forward the fire of life. It's that which ignites our life, and it's creative, and it pushes forward. It wants to achieve. It wants to do things. It wants to make things happen. So it acts, and the Aries evolutionary intention is to find itself through action, through experience. It doesn't want to sit and think and wait. It actually just wants to do. It wants to do. And it's a solitary, so opposite to Libra, it actually, I know what I want. I have an impulse. I'm going to go and do it. So it's very powerful. It's a very powerful archetype. So what I see this shift from the Libra. So the Libra, once we become too produced, we become too appropriate, we become too adapted to norms, to other people's ways of being, other people's ways of seeing things. We kind of lose our life force. We're just overproduced. So we're scripted. And so this is a picture of a young girl who looks very beautiful, but there's like no soul there. The eyes are flat. She's a form now. So the idea in this axis is to reclaim our sovereignty, to reclaim our agency, to find the courage in our soul, and to reignite that raw power, that wild power that's inside all of us by taking action. So this is again, like Aries and Libra energies are within each of us. I mean, we each have them. So it's finding that part of our life. Like our charts will help us identify that, but we can also feel it. And said, what part of my life am I compromising too much? Where have I lost my own direction? Where should I be speaking up when I'm not speaking up? And then am I still authentic? And in some parts of our life we are, but in other parts of our life, we lose that authenticity, we lose that juice of life. So we're being asked for the next 18 months to look at those parts of our life and really work out, well, what do I really want? What am I sacrificing in order to keep a relationship, in order to stay safe? And what are my true values? And so we take from the Aries energy, so the Aries that knows what it wants, so sensing into my true sense of my true feelings, getting that clarity and that purpose, summoning up my courage, taking risks, speaking up where I know I should be speaking up and I'm not because I'm afraid, and taking action rather than thinking and cogitating and delaying and procrastinating. So in other words, taking charge of my life. So how do we do that? And where do we do that? And it's a big ask, and it's going to happen collectively, and it's going to happen personally. But in our personal lives, And this is I have this access. I have a Libra South node and I have an Aries North node. So I'm living this very energy that I'm talking about. And what I'm finding through other things that I've done in our spiritual practice is that there's the now, there's always the now. And in this particular interaction that I'm in with this particular person in this moment, how am I feeling? Is this, do I feel like I'm suppressing my own voice? Am I suppressing what I really want to do? And choosing. It's a time for choosing. What is it that I really feel, and what is it that I'm sensing, and taking the courage to speak. Now, this doesn't mean, immediately changing my job if I feel that I'm not being well treated and I'm suppressed and I don't love my job anymore. It can happen in everyday interactions. And what I find that as I make the choices towards bringing life back to myself, in this cycle of everydayness, I build the capacity of my own strength, I build the capacity for my own courage, and I build awareness where it is that I'm losing myself and I'm betraying myself.
Thank you, Stella.
Yeah,
Very enlightening.
okay, so this is just, yeah. So again, this is, you can get this off the recording. This is my email if you want to get in touch with me. I do one-on-one coaching, natal chart readings, and personal and couples retreat at our beautiful butterfly farm in North Carolina. Thank you all.
Thank you. And, this ties into the previous presentation about Venus retrograde, because Venus retrograde rules the South Node in Libra. So thanks for fleshing it up. Beautiful. So now we're moving from the nodes to the eclipses. Susie, take us to the heart of the sun.
Thank you, Maurice. My name is Susie Holbrook, and I've been a practicing pediatrician for over 30 years, working with kids, but have started working with adults with evolutionary astrology for many years, about 15 to 20 years, graduated from Jeff Green's Evolutionary School and also Maurice's Evolutionary School. Thank you so much, Maurice, for everything that you have helped me with over the past at least 15 years. And am hopefully slated to complete my functional medicine certification in November. So I am talking about eclipse season, October 2023, hoping to convince you that this is an opportunity for karmic healing using a fusion of evolutionary astrology and functional medicine. So I know you have been sitting and listening, and we appreciate you so much, but let's just take a second. I'd like to have this teaching moment about at any moment how we can integrate the spirit into the form. So close your eyes and remember this beautiful picture of a solar eclipse and feel that light, that golden energy coming into the top of your head. And feel your body relaxing, opening, allowing that warmth and that love and kindness to seep down, feel it enter your heart space, and then just recognize the great gift we have in our understanding of astrology and the way that it has given us an understanding of our karmic past and into our spiritual future, and the way that we can use this in our practice of healing. So open your eyes. So this is another representation of a solar eclipse. We can see that the light of the sun to the earth is blocked by the moon. Now, we can imagine the energy radiating from these bodies in the sky, that there is an alignment of the path of the sun and the path of the moon. And that this alignment, it's not just the wattage of a light bulb that we get that energy from the planets at any moment, But during this eclipse season, it is like a spotlight of energy that we have available for our transformation, our spiritual growth. So like this, where in the chart, where in your chart is this energy highlighting this spotlight of warmth and, you know, spiritual power that we can use if we know what we're doing? Now, this energy is maybe more highlighted in your chart in this eclipse season if you have natal bodies, angles, luminaries that are aspected within a degree. And usually the conjunction, the square, and the opposition are going to be much more strongly felt. And there's no surprise. There's no mystery that at this moment in time, your soul is saying, step up. You are ready. You've done the necessary work in order to really use this process in your best interest for spiritual growth. So think about where these sun and moon and nodal axis, where is it landing in your chart, and get a lot of information about your own process through this time. I love this quote by Carolyn Myss. Beyond the chemical, physical, and psychological study of disease, there comes a point as we search for the cause of illness when we are led directly to the core of our person's soul. Now, I wanted to really bring up that this energy, we through the solar eclipse, which is the new moon, that's the seed point. That's what is bubbling up, the very beginning of it, the whiff of it, of a possible change. And so that whatever way this is coming up, be ready, because it might come through physical symptoms. It might come through realizations. It might come through emotions, or it might come through people that you're seeing come into your life. But whatever way it's coming, it is your soul speaking to you. So listen to your soul and see that how it affects in the mundane reality of your world. So this is the solar eclipse chart, October 14th. I put the sun and moon on the ascendant because that is what's getting birth. It's what we're talking about here. And the seed energy is so important to begin the process of feeling it seep in and realizing what great impact that we can have on this through this great alignment of energies. Now, in evolutionary astrology, as Stella mentioned, that south node is the energy that we're bringing in from past lifetimes. And that it's something that our soul has made an intention to grow through, re-experiencing, reevaluating, reliving, and in that way bring up these karmic issues, imprints that we feel like is all that we have. But through experiencing and saying, that's not working, we can move it to a new level of expression. That's the karma. And this is the sole purpose of this incarnation. And when we go to the north node, we again, Stella mentioned this Aries energy. It's that authentic, point of growth. Like, what am I? There's this knowledge that there is something more out there that we ourselves are in the process of finding. It is this spark, this energy, this horse. Maurice always likens it to a bucking horse that we're holding on, and it's so exciting. We don't know where it's going, but we know that we're going to learn something that's incredibly important about ourselves through experiencing it. And then if we go to the rulers of the nodes, are also very important in understanding the message here. So the South Node in Libra is about, I come in feeling myself to be incomplete, that there's a lack. And potentially when this is a South Node, there could be an over-reliance on the messages that the learning that we get in that point and counterpoint experience. When maybe we are a bit codependent, maybe we're a bit inauthentic to our own voice, that we are so cowed to our own process that everything is filtered through another. And then if we go to the ruler of that South Node, which is that Venus in Virgo, what's the personality like of somebody with this potential chart? Well, it might be that they feel that their authentic self is about being that other in a relationship that is the ability to use the mental faculty to analyze, to help process what is the best way for better function. That there's this observational quality that through the other, you're the critical voice. You're the one that set yourself up as the helper to get their process moving forward. But there's obviously a problem in this, that the other might be old and get really sick of being criticized all the time, and that this could be laid the groundwork for one after another eruption or separation. And so that could set this soul up for the feeling of that lack over and over and over again. And that opposition to Saturn in Pisces is showing the way that there's cracks in this process, this relationship pattern that's been set up. And the North Node in Aries, back to that South Node in Mars, is a very difficult position, because I can imagine a seething internal acid that is feeling frustrated over and over. It could set the groundwork for showing up with passive aggressive tendencies and could basically cause separation in relationship by making the other person really fed up, and not really understanding their own process. And they never get their own needs met because of this pattern. Now, how could this show up in the physical body? Well, that Venus in Virgo, Virgo rules the intestine, the opposition with Saturn in Pisces could definitely be leaky gut permeability issues, which very much exacerbates any autoimmune conditions and can make people sick. The other way that this could show up in the physical body is through adrenal dysfunction, whether it's over secretion of adrenaline, and therefore there's hypertension, there's anxiety, and then it could eventually burn itself out, so that there's adrenal fatigue, and you never have enough energy, and it's like this. It's a backward way of presenting. You think it's going to be a very strong Mars, but in fact, it could become the very opposite of that. So I want to really show you the connection. Now, I just showed you the soul issues, but then if we know as an astrologer where those soul issues are, and we hear from the client what are their physical symptoms, as an example, the gut, the heal the gut or leaky gut, then we know that there are mundane ways, protocols that we can help heal their process. And I would say that in the process of healing their body, that then they would learn skills that would help on their soul process. So this is a protocol for heal the gut. Leaky gut is remove things that are not supposed to be there, like bacteria and protozoa, replacing with digestive enzymes, repairing the leaky gut through supplements potentially, or food. Food is very important. What do you eat? What don't you eat? Re-inoculating with good bacteria and rebalancing through relaxation and yoga and those kind of mind-body techniques. For adrenal support, again, really taking it from the soul level and going to the physical in order to provide handles. It just gives you more ways. It's hard to say, okay, relax. Okay, stop treating people that way in relationships. It's another to say, okay, let's work on you. Let's work on you relaxing. Let's work on your nourishment. Let's figure out in what other ways you're stressed out. Inflammation is huge with adrenal dysfunction. So let's treat that. Let's get you feeling better. And then hopefully that would percolate down to then being able to get to the soul issues as well, back and forth, forward and back. So quickly with the lunar eclipse, again, this phenomenon is when the Earth is not allowing the moon to reflect the sun. And it's the full moon. So it's not a seeding energy anymore. It's an active process. We're able to understand and act on it. This is an image of that lunar eclipse. So this is the chart, October 28 lunar eclipse. So again, we have the South Node in Libra. And that ruler, again, is that Venus in Virgo. But this time, we do have that opposition still to Neptune, but hopefully we have a bit more understanding about that process through, through empowering our own boundaries. And we do see that there is this grand trine in Earth. So how wonderful that signature is for helping our process on the mundane level. We are creating boundaries. We're creating structure that will hold this new way of functioning in our world. And that instead of that Libra signature in the sun and moon, we now have Scorpio. So Scorpio is not going to allow codependent behavior. It's not going to put up with it. And so this full moon with this Taurus energy over here that I'm hoping will, after, working on the boundaries, working on ourselves, and that no longer allowing dysfunction through the Scorpio energy, and using these Taurian planets over here to help further ground, to help further our self-esteem, that we don't need that codependent behavior anymore, because we're willing to really stand up and see how valuable our own work, our own process, our own needs are. And in this way, then hopefully that we can really use this eclipse season, understanding the process of seeding to full expression, and use it in a very productive way. So
Thank you, Susie.
You're welcome.
And where can people contact you? If you're correlating, the medical, the physical aspect to the astrological transits. So let us know if people need more insights about that.
Yeah, it's susieholbrook.com, just my name.com. And if you please, if you have questions, if you want more information, you want to talk to me about a reading, I'm definitely available. And you can reach me at susieholbrook.com.
Beautiful. And speaking about Scorpio and North Node in Aries, here comes a very interesting cycle with Mannah, who's going to lead us through the upcoming Mars activation. What's going on with Mars?
Yes. Can I just say that this is by far the best cafe I have attended ever, right? With these deep topics, I'm so inspired, and I was like, where is my gut? And all of these new things, new information. That's awesome. So thank you for that. Yeah, my name is Mannah, and I'm based in Denmark, but I do online consultations, of course. And my approach is, as you can see there, therapeutic. And actually just in thread with what Susie did for a little while there in the beginning, I thought just to honor this approach, therapeutic approach to astrology, that we could take a second to feel our breath and notice our aliveness, which is basically our breath, and notice our energetic state, the feeling of space around and within your body. Because the thing is, we can consciously connect even when there's a lot of juice for our head brain, as it is with intellectually acquired knowledge. So we can still stay connected to also our gut brain and our heart brain, and relax into the body. So just, if you want to, you can continue to drop into yourself as I speak a little bit here. So therapeutic astrology means that I combine astrology with my background in therapy to do process-oriented self-work. Where we first have the astrological overarching information from the reading. And all of these realizations then in therapy can really be integrated, where we work on connecting to yourself and the world in a conscious and intentional way. So in other words, therapy is a way to anchor the insights of the birth chart into you. So the journey is to recover, as we heard, I think especially from Stella, to recover from the wounds of the past, and so that we're not stuck in those old patterns, but can go beyond. Also what I'm at the moment very curious about, going beyond character structures of the ego. So to me, therapy makes all the change in the world when we want to integrate the astrological information and turn it into more embodied wisdom, and work on these issues that we really want to change. And I want to mention that I'm a student currently of Maurice Fernandez School of Evolutionary Astrology. Did you hear that, Maurice?
I hear everything.
Okay, good. And I should also comment you, like praise you like the other one did, like Susie did.
You know, we have time for that later.
I'll do
Let's
that
dive
later.
into Mars.
Yes. The Mars cycle, I just want to say why I want to talk about it is because there is a new Mars cycle coming up. We're ahead of that. And like we've said, that Mars is the ruler of the North Node, so it's even more relevant now. And it's in the archetype of Scorpio. Just want to mention that that has a lot, at least for me, to do with the therapy, because Scorpio is about alchemy and therapy and the detective work of our own mystery, and then the transformation that can come out of that. So the Mars cycle is a 2-year cycle, which essentially relates to personal autonomy and empowerment. So a lot about what we've heard about what Aries is. So 1 year we have the conjunction where Mars is conjunct the Sun, and the following year Mars is retrograde and opposing the Sun. And so the last conjunction 2 years ago was in Libra, 15 degrees. And yeah, as I write here, we know that there a few months after a war was started by Putin, whose sun is at 13 degrees Libra. So, you know, when we say these sort of things, is it, oh, is there going to be war again? What is going to happen? So I just want to say that this is absolutely the lowest expression of the Mars cycle. The higher road with Mars, Sun, and in Libra 2 years ago would be to reignite your relationships through equality and mutual empowerment, and not destroying the other part. So the conjunction will take place on November 17 this year at 25 degrees of Scorpio, and it will oppose Uranus at 20 degrees Taurus. And so what is this conjunction between Sun and Mars? Mars is the birth of individuality. So it's our life force. I was speaking about the gut brain there, so maybe that's related. Mars represents the most primal self-preservation instinct, what separates you from everyone else, and where you have your own autonomous being. So in your chart, when you find your Mars, where your Mars is, that really represents what creates a spark in you. It's your supply of energy, and it gives you the ability to face challenges and survive. And then the Sun, so we have the conjunction between Sun and Mars. So the Sun is about creating life, living your purpose, shining out who you are. And these two together, very powerful forces, can really change the way that your life goes and prompt you to act on your passion, to stand up for yourself, to go with your instinct to protect what's valuable to you. And so then we also, just to add this opposition to Uranus, it can bring some newness, redirection of your energy. And because Uranus is about up-leveling, doing it better. So it can really up-level your regular mode of action, up-level the way you do things. And this conjunction on November 17, it can really take you to a deep examination of yourself, of your personal power and your potency. And then with Uranus opposing, it can challenge you to find new ways to also resource yourself, because as we heard earlier here, Taurus also has to do with that, your resources. So even though we can expect some confrontation, the intention for this is really to empower ourselves, again, by connecting to our passion, connecting to creativity. But the thing is that before that process begins, you may feel a loss of energy. You may feel stuck in something, you may feel weak, or maybe you have to face some challenges in a relationship. It can take you to the end of something. This is Scorpio, the end of something. And you might need closure in a certain area of your life, depending on where it is in your chart. But the thing is, when something stuck begins to change, it really opens up space for something else to grow. So as something is closing with Mars-Sun cycle here, it can prompt you to reignite your spark so that you remember what your purpose is, and that will bring energy back to you. And yeah, so just the challenging bits here. So I have some events that played out last time that around the date where there was a conjunction in Scorpio. So I talked about the 2-year cycle, but that's in different signs. So this is the examination of when it happened in Scorpio. And so the themes are resources, war, death, and yeah, free will is a risky business. But again, you know, the higher ground is if we can bring this to a win-win situation, even though that perhaps there are this confrontation from the outside, so that we live the higher ground rather than kill or be killed mentality.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So am I done?
I think
I'm not done yet.
You know, a few more minutes.
Okay, thank you. It's really about facing what is not functioning in your life. So when Mars has reached Scorpio, you have exhausted your power, but through Scorpio, we have the opportunity to get a second chance to reboot. So when you transform the dysfunction, you get a new chance on life, and you can have these higher realizations that can, you know, where you can go beyond your structure, the ego structure that held you back before. So yeah, just some questions here to reflect before this and think about what needs to be recalibrated. Maybe we don't know because this is in November, so it's far from now, right? But just to, maybe we can bring it up when we are closer to that date. Where is my power? Where do I feel insecure or weak? Can I be powerful with others as opposed to competing against others? How can I revitalize my soul, my body, my finances, my sexuality? We don't have time now, but otherwise I would invite you to take a moment with that and notice how you feel in this moment.
Looking forward, these Mars cycles are indeed often overlooked. So that aspect of 1 year, a Mars-Sun conjunction, 2nd year, Mars-Sun opposition in retrograde is really important to track. So all of us with planets at 25-ish fixed signs, it's time for re-empowerment. Beautiful. Thank you, Mannah. And where can people contact you? At therapeuticastrology.com?
Yeah, astrologer.com.
Therapeutic-astrologer.com.
Exactly.
And everything you needed to know about Mars and were afraid to ask.
Yes, please contact. You're very welcome.
Beautiful. And we're now examining astrology from a different perspective, not only looking at transits, but understanding astrology from a mythical, natural point of view. And Janine, who is an animal communicator, will lead us to astrology and animals. Thank you.
Thanks, Maurice. Hi everyone, thanks for joining me as I share the connection between astrology and animals. My name's Janine Opheim. I began my astrology education with Maurice in 2012 with his School of Evolutionary Astrology, and I'm in the final stages of my diploma. I've been working with clients for about 2 years. I'm based in Norway but grew up in Australia. I practice internationally through Zoom. The focus of my consultations is usually gifts and challenges, health, relationships, careers, and transits. And for those non-astrologers out there, that's where I look at the energies coming up for you in the next 12 months or so. I'm also able to look at your animal friends' charts to support your relationship with them. I came to astrology as an animal communicator, as Maurice said, and even though I offer astrology services outside my animal work, I wanted to take this opportunity to explore the connection between the two. Animals and astrology are profoundly connected. The word zodiac literally translates as circle of animals. 8 out of 12 astrology signs are represented by an animal. Everything in life can be related to an astrology signature, including animals, and animals also have their own astrology charts. There are 4 signs that aren't represented by animals. Out of those 4 signs, 3 of them are represented by humans, which of course we actually are part of nature. None of the signs associated with the air element are represented by animals. This is because animals signify emotional and primal forces to do with survival and development, and air relates to the mind, which is more analytical. The only sign represented by an object is Libra, which is represented by a set of scales signifying balance and harmony. So the 8 signs represented by animals, the first is Aries, which is represented by a ram. It's a fire sign ruled by Mars. The horns of the ram represent the skull, and Aries put their heads down and push through life with force and determination. Taurus is represented by the bull. It's an earth sign ruled by Venus, and the bull represents resources and strength. Cancer is represented by the crab. It's a water sign ruled by the moon. The crab is protective in nature, and its shell is its home. It retreats into its shell for safety and security. Leo, represented by the lion. It's a fire sign ruled by the sun. And the lion relates to leadership, nobility, and inspiration. Then we have Scorpio, which is represented by the scorpion. It's a water sign. The modern ruler is Pluto. Traditional ruler is Mars. Scorpios aren't afraid of the dark or looking under the covers. If you hurt a Scorpio, you'll most likely feel the sting of their tail. Scorpio is also represented by the snake and the eagle. The snake represents the underworld, and the eagle, which is really a phoenix, represents rising from the ashes. And together they represent birth, death, and rebirth. Then we have Sagittarius, which is represented by a centaur with a bow and arrow. It's a fire sign ruled by Jupiter. Sagittarius relates to the nature that is untamed and raw, as well as the yearning to understand the meaning of life. It also relates to adventure and far-off places. The centaur is half man, half horse, combining the power and wildness of the horse and the human need for authenticity and developing a belief system to understand existence. The bow and arrow represent far-off adventure. Then we have Capricorn, which is represented by a sea goat, which has the head and body of a mountain goat and a fish tail. It's an earth sign ruled by Saturn, which represents the climb from the top of the mountain, originating on the ocean floor and rising to the peak of the mountain, which signifies the drive of Capricorn to achieve and the hard work they put into reaching their goals. And then lastly, Pisces, which is ruled by 2 fish. It's a water sign. The modern ruler, Neptune, and traditional ruler is Jupiter. The fish symbolism depicts the primal form of life. Humans originally came from the oceans in our most primal form. The oceans are the womb of humanity. According to my studies with Maurice, which resonate deeply with me, there are different ways to look at not only the symbolism of animals, but also how and where we group different animals in the chart. The 4 signs and relating houses that represent the different areas of the animal and natural world are Pisces and the 12th house, Sagittarius and the 9th house, Virgo and the 6th house, and Leo and the 5th house. And through understanding our own astrology charts, we can see which areas of our lives will be influenced by the different animals and how we interact with the animal world through these 4 signs. Animals relating to Pisces and the 12th house, everything that came before us, everything that humans didn't create. It's wildlife and wilderness, it's untamed environments, free roaming animals who are not owned or connected to humans, and it also represents our human ability and need to connect with nature outside the confines of modern civilization. The Sagittarius in the 9th house, similar to Pisces, Sagittarius also represents the wild spirit of animals. Large animals will also be represented by Sagittarius as well as Pisces because it's ruled by the largest planet in our solar system, Jupiter. Just like with Pisces, Sagittarius and the 9th house represent our need to spend time in nature and to connect with our own wild, authentic selves. Virgo and the 6th house. Virgo relates to the management and function of life. It relates to improving our efficiency and use of resources. So it's our farm animals, our working animals like horses, donkeys, mules, working dogs, and falcons and hawks trained for falconry. Leo, the 5th house. Leo relates to the heart, love, children, playfulness, creativity. It's our companion animals, those animals we share our hearts, homes, and lives with. And Leo and the 5th house also relate to the love of animals in general, both wild and domesticated. We can also relate animals to the elements. So air is pollinators, birds and flying insects. Fire is predators. Water, marine life. And earth, land mammals, earth, insects and worms. So people may feel connected to animals that relate to strong parts of their charts. Through the chart, we can understand why we are drawn to certain animals and what they can teach us. So I can give you a personal example. I have a strong Aquarius in the 12th house of Pisces, and I'm very connected to birds, especially birds of prey, the eagles, etc. So birds, the air element, especially Aquarius, because of flying high, like the bird's eye view. And birds of prey also relate to Mars, Aries, because of the sharp talons and beaks. And I have Mars in Aquarius in the 12th house. So you can see how that works. So are companion animals affected by astrology? Absolutely, in the same way as humans. An astrology chart is a moment something is birthed, captured in time and space. We are the only person in the world who captures that exact moment, unless we're born at exactly the same time and place as someone else. So if an astrology chart is a moment in time when something is birthed, then of course animals also have astrology charts. Just like parents can benefit from learning about their children's charts, we can understand our animal friends on a deeper level through their chart. We can understand where they're coming from and what their needs and natural qualities are. So I can give a couple of examples. This is Pluto and Delphi, who I'm blessed to live with. Delphi is a Gemini, which is connected to communication, and Delphi barks a lot. Pluto is a Scorpio, which is connected to depth, and they can be very sensitive. Pluto can be grumpy and is jealous of our other animals, but he is also the most soulful animal I have ever lived with. Through their astrology charts, I can see where their traumas may have come from, and I've learned what they need from me to help them have a safer, feel safer, more confident, and to live a happier life. So that's it from me. I hope you found that informative and interesting. I'm available for readings. You can book directly on my website at janineopheim.com. You can also sign up to my newsletter, and I'll be sharing some exciting events soon. Or I'm also on Facebook, Instagram, Janine Opheim Astrologer, and my email address, janineopheim.com. Thank you for watching.
Beautiful. And nice comments from Christine Noble, who says it's a fabulous presentation.
Thanks, Christine.
Accessible, beautiful, and informative.
Mm.
And yeah, we are so interconnected with animals and nature. That's a great reminder to understand our own consciousness through that.
Thanks,
And
Maurice.
yeah, like I think all these talks could be extended to a full lecture. So I encourage all of you guys to, and ladies, to do that. You know, it would be a wonderful opportunity. And Annette, thank you.
Thank you, Maurice. Thank you, Maurice. Hello, fellow astro travelers. I'm Annette Denham. I'm a consulting modern astrologer, helping people unlock their past, empower their present, and dream their future. I want to talk a little bit about astrology's impact on our world today. You know, and in uncertain times, in uncertain times, political anxiety and economic challenges, and climate change disasters costing billions of dollars around the world, and the earth getting hotter and recording record-breaking heat waves, a war in Ukraine, and a fight for freedom and democracy. In our current environment, the most stressed out generation are the millennials, followed by the Gen Xers. But overall, American stress has been increasing since the 2016 presidential election. And with younger and older people alienated by mainstream religion, the decline calculated by scandals has led to diminishing appeal for traditional institutions. Many are uncomfortable identifying themselves as part of those institutions. So they identify themselves as spiritual, but not religious, reorienting themselves to alternative spiritual practices and astrology as a refuge. For many, astrology has become a coping mechanism. And a study done by psychologist Graham Tyson found that in response to stressors primarily linked to social roles and relationships, people seek out astrology. You know, there's an interesting comment that was made by a fellow astrologer some years ago that said, you know, when Obama was president, people liked astrology, but in the Trump years, people needed it. And you can agree or disagree with that. And you can, it's not up for political debate. But however, it certainly has contributed to political astrology and brought a lot of people to astrology from all over the world. One of the greatest impacts that we've had on the industry is Carl Jung with psychology. And he has played a major impact with his inspiration and life work, inspiring other astrologers to explore his model of unconscious and amplification of the archetypal sphere. Emerging from his influence was Dane Rudhyar's work, Synthesized Psychology and Eastern Philosophies. And in 1976, Liz Green reimagined traditional views with her book on Saturn. Today, widespread accessibility of technology contributes to astrology's rise in popularity. The power of connecting with online platforms, social media, and apps link like-minded people. Social influencers and celebrities play a role sharing their signs and beliefs, creating a sense of relatability. And the normalization of astrology has helped reduce the stigma, making it more socially acceptable. One of the interesting things that I found when I was doing some research on the statistics of astrology was that in 2021, the global astrology industry was valued at $12.8 billion, which is up considerably from $2.2 billion in 2018. And most notably in 2019 in the United States, the top 10 astrology apps generated $39.7 million, which is an increase of 65% from 2018. Now, the prominent symbols for astrology is one is the eccentric, unpredictable planet of Uranus, the only planet whose equator rotates at a 98-degree right-angle tilt to its orbit, spending a quarter of each Uranian year alternating one of its poles directly pointing at the sun, plunging the other half of the planet into a 21-year-long winter. Everything about Uranus is unique and different. It is associated with change, sudden surprises, lightning-like flashes of insight, technology inventions, and originality. It is the planet of acceleration of thoughts and events with no cause. Things happen from out of the blue. Now, you cannot manage Uranus. When lightning strikes, it begins with multiple paths, but it takes the path of least resistance. To get to the maximum effect, whether it's graceful or not, Uranus strikes when there's tension. It strikes to rectify a situation with no concern for a positive or a negative outcome. It just wants to rectify the situation in the moment. Uranus will seek the unconscious to express energy out into the open, and his job is to seek out whatever is buried. Astrology is a function of time and space with perceptions of an outer world. And as that world changes, our inner world changes. So, for example, for centuries, Mercury has been associated with astrologers, the very nature of astrology being mercurial and Uranus the higher octave. But in between Mercury and Uranus sits Jupiter, higher mind. Think about our email communications today. Mercury is the thought, it's the conscious mind, it's the CPU or the central processing unit, and it's RAM. How much can you hold in memory in the computer, in our computer brain? Uranus is the way, it's the distribution of thought through our brain or our computer network. As technology plays a greater role in astrology every day, using computer calculations, graphics, and research, it becomes more Uranian. An interesting point is that the orbit of Uranus is outside the boundaries of Saturn, outside the limit of the status quo, and has the power to disrupt everything that we know. Uranus is the road less traveled. Now, if we look at the glyph symbolizing the sign of Aquarius, two parallel lines that zigzag, it's also the Egyptian hieroglyphic for water. The waves symbolize water being blown by the wind through the air. And this glyph represents the dissemination of knowledge, and the identical lines express the Aquarian desire to share information and seek equality in all matters. Another Aquarius symbol is the lightning bolt. It symbolizes the spark of enlightenment descending from the heavens that can transform darkness into light. Aquarius gives humanity an unbounded and enlightened perspective of life that transcends the limitations of the material world. As the modern ruler, Uranus is referred to as the awakener, and its glyph is the cross of matter over a circle of spirit, with semicircles on each side to represent receptivity, conveying rapid receptivity and multidimensional perceptions, experiences, flashes. It literally looks like a television antenna that magically zaps images onto a screen from afar. Uranus moves Aquarius towards the future and symbolizes new inventions and innovations that move humanity forward. Now let's connect Uranus, Father Sky, with Taurus, Mother Earth. Taurus is a fixed sign possessing fortitude and strength. It's reliable and it's grounded. It's persistent with great depth, but resistant to change. Taurus energy brings a slow, steady pace that's unstoppable, like the bull. Venus, the ruling planet of Taurus, is associated with values, possessions, money, and material things with a sensitivity to beauty. When we look at Uranus, the planet, its erratic lightning speed will shake things up without notice. And whenever it sees tension, it strikes. But in the domain of a slow-moving Taurus with a steady pace, resistant to change, the tension can get drawn out, forcing hard work to materialize a result. What has this meant for us in astrology? Well, with online platforms and evolving technology that has sped up our day-to-day world and Uranian energy stimulating the visionary, the inventor and the humanitarian, into quick action, the energy of Taurus brings us down to reality, to create something tangible, but it may take longer than we planned. The energy is hurry up and wait, or move forward quickly and take a few steps back. The spark of an idea we envision with consistent hard work will produce something of material value. Astrology can work rapidly in leaps and bounds if we keep up with the work. On August 28th, Uranus is going to turn retrograde in Taurus and will be there through January of 2024. Consider this an invitation to face our fears and fix what is not working and get more of what we want. It's time to integrate. The next several months have the potential to bring great reward. So ground yourself with Mother Earth and Taurus and its fixed quality by consistently doing the work, and balance your new ideas and vision with Father Sky, lifting your spirits to create something into fruition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And where are you based?
I'm in
Annette?
Phoenix, Arizona, but I do work on Zoom internationally. And if anybody's interested, I'm putting together a new discussion group on astrology where you have a chance to meet other people from around the world and learn and grow as a community. So I hope you'll join me.
So
You
that's
can reach me.
it's an
It's gonna be
online
on-
or what's up?
Yeah, it's going to be online. So if you reach out to me through GPS at AnnetteDenhamastrology.com and send me an email or fill out the form, I'll let you know when we're going to start. So thank you.
Beautiful. That's great community opportunity. Wow. So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to take the torch and continue exploring those slides. Annette, can you unshare? See. So I wanted to touch on Chiron, because Chiron, is often misunderstood perhaps, or it's so present and it's at the peak of its cycle. Chiron is currently in Aries, and it's the farthest away from the Earth, which means that it stays longer in the sign of Aries. It's going to stay in Aries 9 years, which is the longest of all signs, compared to the fastest sign, the opposite, where it's going to stay about just 2 years in Libra down the road. So the previous cycles, Chiron was in Aries in 1968 to 77, and then now it re-entered Aries in 2018. It's going to be there until 2027. It's a roughly 50-year cycle. And so Chiron is so controversial because for some reason, astrologers immediately gravitated toward Chiron. It's not a planet per se. It's not an asteroid. It's a body that created a new definition, a centaur. That's its actual astronomical reference. And Chiron in mythology was a centaur. So the interesting thing, it was discovered in 1977 and created a whole new category of celestial object. And it sits between Saturn and Uranus, between the last visible planet and the first invisible planet. At least with a naked eye, you cannot see Uranus unless you really have special circumstances. So it's a bridge between the personal and the transpersonal. And I found it very interesting that Chiron really, of all the extra bodies, you have such an open sky. Astrologers gravitated toward Chiron and this new body, unlike any others. And part of the reason is that Chiron mythologically was a great teacher, was a medicine man and an astrologer. So he combined sciences with spirituality. He was a maverick. And that really reflects who we are as astrologers very much. So the other interesting thing is that in the mythological story, you know, obviously there was sexual violence because that's what happens in Greek myths. And he was born out of his father is Saturn, and his mother tried to run away from Saturn by shapeshifting into a horse. And so when Saturn actually raped her, the offspring, Chiron, was half man, half god, half horse, and was immortal because he was the son of a god. But unlike the other centaurs, who were mostly self-indulgent, vulgar beings who liked to curse and to drink and to waste resources, Chiron was sophisticated, intelligent, and the teacher of teachers. So wherever we have our Chiron, we feel very different. We can feel misunderstood, but we have a spark of genius that will emerge to possibly change circumstances and to reflect a level of mastery. So that position between Saturn and Uranus, that bridge, brings us from being, you know, incredibly creative, intellectually creative, to being able to deliver. However, you know, Chiron's story ended up with him being hit by an arrow and not being able to heal himself. And there's the paradox here of the healer, the medicine person, the teacher of teachers, who did not have answers and remedies for himself and had to abandon eternal life to become immortal, because mortality gave him a respite from the arrow's wound, from the suffering of his wound. And so now that Chiron is in Aries, we examine where our wound is and where our maverick, where the genius is, you know, that kind of extreme polarity between mastery and handicap. That's the hard thing about Chiron, is that it gives you something that's so magnificent, so refined, but it then also takes you to a place of extreme vulnerability. So why talk about it today? You know, everyone here shared about eclipses and the Aries Libra axis. And the next eclipse, you know, Susie spoke about the October eclipse, and the following one in April is going to be exactly at 19 degrees Aries, and it's going to be exactly on Chiron. So eclipses are events that are influential beyond the specific day it happens. You know, they have a range of influence that can go months before and months after. So it's relevant to already bring that up, because we can see how the wave gathers and how it's gaining momentum. So the peak, you know, is going to be indeed in next April. And then the other fascinating thing is that happens to be the Chiron return of the United States. So not only is there a smacking eclipse conjunct Chiron, but it's on the US natal Chiron in the 4th house. And we say it's a 50-year cycle. So every 50-year Chiron returns to the same position, but not every 50 years there's an eclipse at the same time. So I would like to refer you to a video that I did on the Chiron return of the United States. It's on my YouTube channel, and it touches on what happened since Chiron got into Aries recently. Gun violence getting out of control, demonstration about, the use of violence in general. And then, the scandals about Me Too movement. And if you look at all of these themes together, one of the themes that can be captured is toxic masculinity. Aries is the sign of masculinity. And so if it is misused, it becomes this aggressive, abrasive, and arrogant energy that ends up with Chiron debilitating. And you see how, Harvey Weinstein, who was on top of the world, who was someone who represented a power in the world, was in a way castrated, was in a way wounded where it most hurt. And so this brings a healing opportunity about how to, on the one hand, be powerful, be active, be the hero, the creative force that Aries brings, without hurting, using violence, overpowering people. So looking back at history, briefly, it's interesting that the NRA, the National Rifle Organization that protects gun ownership and the Second Amendment in the United States, is also born with a Chiron in Aries, and it squares the ruler Mars with Saturn. So the land of the brave and the home of the brave and land of the free is very much a Chiron statement in the US chart. But we see how the right to bear arms, the need to be autonomous and not let any tyrannical government take over your rights, is a legitimate request. It's a legitimate freedom, right for freedom, unless, with the square to Mars Saturn, it is abused or misused. Interestingly, the last time Chiron entered Aries in 1968, just a few days later, Martin Luther King was assassinated. And then Robert Kennedy a couple of months later. And not only was Chiron just into Aries, but transiting Mars was on his Chiron. Other freedom fighters and positive representation of Chiron in Aries is Nelson Mandela, who has Chiron in Aries opposing Mars. So kind of a double signature. And we see how he represents the maverick, the hero, the victor. He was victorious Aries in his battle to restore justice, balance, etc. So, we are in the thick of a very powerful cycle that invites us to re-empower ourselves and to re-examine the right use of power in general. And if we speak about bravery, and we speak about emancipation and freedoms, we can expect this cycle of Chiron in Aries to continue the path of liberation. If it's women's emancipation, through the Me Too movement, if it's African Americans, and perhaps even Native Americans in the United States history. I'm referring a lot to the US because of the return in the US chart. So something to think about. If you would like to learn more about Chiron, like I said, a free video on my YouTube channel. You have also a full workshop, 10 hours on Chiron in every sign. And here we are, I closing this circle and wishing everyone an amazing, amazing time, amazing months with, these animal circles and new nodal axes, new cycle of eclipses, Libra, the Venus and the Mars activations, as well as we saw a lot of Mercury earthy activations. Thank you all here, the speakers, for offering such unique perspective. The medical, the philosophical, the coaching, the therapeutic, the evolutionary. We see how we are the force of astrology's future, union in diversity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Maurice, for planning this.
Absolutely. I think it was
Thank
fun. I think, it's Astro Bite may live on.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been wonderful.
Yeah, thank you, Maurice, and thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you,
Take
everybody.
good care. Bye-bye.